Okay, welcome. Today we're taking a look at some absolute value equations where we're solving for a variable and we're involving an x. And now keep in mind, if I wanted to know the absolute value of x, in which equals 18, that's going to have two answers. Why? Because both 18 and negative 18 give me an 18. So when you have an absolute value equation, you should have two results answers for x. So how do we do that? Well, what we want to do is split up this equation, make that 8, into two separate equations. One equal to it's an original result of 6, and the other equal to the reciprocal of that, meaning if this were plus 6, now this is going to be negative 6. And then you would solve for each, adding 8 to both sides. X is equal to 14. And then adding 8 to both sides, x is equal to 2. And that makes sense because if I were to plug in for each and plug in my 14 minus 8 is equal to 6. 14, my absolute value of 6 is in fact 6. That's okay. Well, look at this one. This one tells you and gives you that negative result where actually we're plugging in, so it's now equal to positive 6. So 2 minus 8 is equal to negative 6. Is negative 6 absolute value of negative 6 equal to 6? Yes, it is. So what this alternative answer does for us, it gives us the version or the way in which I can get a negative inside my absolute value and solve for the 6 here. Here's another good example. Now in the previous example, we had the x minus 4 by itself, and then we split it into two separate equations. In this one, there's a couple of additional steps. One being getting actually in this case, very important is to get, I'm going to abbreviate, absolute value by itself. You're going to treat it like it is the variable. So here I'm going to add 8 to both sides, rewrite 4 absolute value x minus 4 is equal to 24, and then I'm going to divide both sides by 4, and I get absolute value of x minus 4 is equal to 6. And here I have the same question as I did in the previous, where the absolute value is by itself, and I could split it into two separate equations. X minus 4 is equal to 6, and x minus 4 is equal to negative 6. And then I could add 4 to both sides and get x is equal to 10, and x is equal to negative 2. And these would be the two answers I could plug in here. For instance, negative 2 minus 4 is negative 6, and the absolute value of negative 6 is 6. So I could check my answers here. So remember, when you're given a couple terms outside the absolute value that's on the side of the absolute value, move those first, and then split the question into equal to 6 and equal to negative 6. This one's interesting here because you have the absolute value on both sides. Not much to move around, but basically you're just setting the 2x plus 9 equal to the 3x minus 8. And as we did in the other questions, you're setting that 2x plus 9 equal to negative of the entire result. Make sure you put the negative, the parentheses, and the 8, because you're going to basically make this entire thing the negative reciprocal. You're going to want to distribute the negative to both terms. On this side, you're going to move letters to one side. Actually, let's move the letters over to the 3 because we want to keep the x positive. 9 is equal to x minus 8. And then if we move our letters to the right, we're going to move our numbers to the left, and we get x is equal to 17. That's our one answer. And then on this side, keeping in mind, oh, well, I have to distribute my negative sign to the negative 3x, negative times a negative plus 8. And then in this case, I want to keep my x positive, so I'm going to bring my letters to the left because I know I'm going to end up adding 3x to both sides and end up with 5x. And if I move my numbers to the left, all in one swoop, I'll move my, if I move my letters to the left, I'm going to move my numbers to the right, and I get 5x is equal to negative 1. Divide by 5, both sides, and I actually end up with a result that is a negative 1/5. And there's my two results. So this is the one where we have absolute value on both sides. Just remember, take one of the sides. I usually like to take the right side here and use one as a positive and then use one as a negative. This should be 3 good examples and all the necessary steps to solve absolute value equations. Hope this helps.